Just a reminder, you can catch me recording this podcast live on AMP. AMP is a new live radio app that lets you call in and chat with me in person while recording. Get the app on Apple's App Store and make sure you follow me at John Middlekauff to get notified when I go live. Live here on AMP. Back at it again, week 5. Feels about week 10 of college football. And we might be rolling with the hottest gambler I've ever seen, Stuckey from the Action Network. You can find him all over the place, online, and obviously big bets on campus, all over the Action Network's content. Stuckey tweeted at me I'd say late USC Colorado, right on cue, as those Trojans can't cover a fucking soul.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I think it was 47-20, I think, and then the game was in doubt a bit towards the end. You're not winning a national title with that defense. I mean, it's just the same old story like we talked about last week. It's crazy.
I was watching, and it kind of felt at one point like a little Oregon-y, right? They were just, are they going to win this game 60-30? So I was like, shit, I'll go to the gym. And I turned it on, just like, we'll keep an eye on it. All of a sudden, I looked up. I think they had broken a big play. And then Caleb threw a pick, and it kind of snowballed. And you're like, holy shit. Yeah. Now, the game, I don't think, is it fair to say, was not quite as close as the 48-41, but it definitely was a legit cover by the Buffs.
Yeah, and it just shows you the difference between – yeah, I mean, look, USC had that game in hand, and then some fluky stuff happened at the end. But it just shows you the difference between, USC – and who's like a really good top 10 team and a real national title contender in like Oregon, right? Just look at the difference between those two games. I know one was at home, one was on the road, but they scored about the same amount of points, and Oregon could have scored 70 if they wanted to. And Colorado couldn't score against Oregon, and they could with ease against USC. And that's going to be their downfall until Riley invests time into the defense and probably gets a new coordinator.
Hey, before we dive into the NFL, let's hit on a couple. There actually are some pretty good college games. Thank God Oklahoma just kind of got their shit together in 2023. Now, are they actually good? Who knows? But this rivalry, when they're both 5-0, is pretty cool. I mean, this game always lives up to the hype. I mean, last year, I forget the score offhand, but wasn't it like 100-0?
49-0. Yeah, 49-0.
Yeah, so I think it was the biggest win in the history of the game. Either side. So that was Venables. Pretty big moment. Clearly, Texas is legit. I mean, most people think, and rightfully so, I mean, they could win the national championship. I'm still hesitant with Steve Sarkisian, but line's not that big given what happened last year. Obviously, Texas is more talented. Does Oklahoma have a shot here? Upset alert.
I think they have a shot. I don't see it happening. But, yeah, I mean, last year, Dylan Gabriel, who's playing really well, they have a kid behind him, Jackson Arnold, who's 5-star, going to be really good at quarterback, too. But last year, they didn't have either. They were running Wildcat. Like, Gabriel was hurt, and it was bad. It was embarrassing. Their defense got embarrassed. The defense is better this year. It's significantly improved. I think that's the biggest thing with this Oklahoma team. And they have a quarterback who's not hurt now. The offense, it's still, lacks some playmakers on the outside. You're not, wowed by – when Gabriel, who's playing really well, if you watch the difference between Texas and Oklahoma, I think that's the biggest thing right now is that Texas has just explosive play pros on the outside, and Oklahoma, doesn't really have that right now. The defense, I think, is legit. Some of it's kind of competition based, but I think they'll give them a game. They're obviously going to be up for it after last year, but I think Texas's defensive front is going to be the difference, just like it was against Alabama. The Oklahoma offensive line, and in addition to the receivers, is kind of the weak area of this team. Still hasn't come together yet. And, I think the run D is playing outstanding, but the secondary can be attacked. So as long as Ewers, there is an upset alert because Ewers could always, he still kind of scares me. He could have just a game where he's just completely off and has accuracy issues and throws a couple picks. That's where this game could get really scary. I think the line's about right. I made it 7.5, so I think it's a little short. But and if you look at Oklahoma, yes, they've looked impressive, but they played SMU at home, and it was 14-11 with 9 to go in the game. And then, SMU had a special teams blunder, and then they went for it on 4th down at their own 30, and Oklahoma scored 2 touchdowns to make that look like, and SMU actually outgained them. And if you look at the Cincy game, they won by 14, but Cincy was going up and down the field and just couldn't do anything in the red zone. So, yes, Oklahoma's looked impressive, but, 2 of their better data points, there's actually been some questions there, and hasn't been as easy as the final score might have indicated. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma will be up, semi-upset alert, but I think Texas gets it done. They're legit.
Okay, 2 other quick SEC games. Obviously, the one in your backyard. I mean, it's in Georgia, but this Kentucky team well. They're 5-0. A little Ewing theory here. Will Levis leaves, and they look a lot better. Clearly, their offense. I mean, based on getting rid of Scangarello last year. I don't know if Georgia's is good. Clearly, they're not. I mean, you can't lose that many elite players. And then the A&M Bama game. I mean, I think A&M's got to be the bet there, even if you're not a huge Jimbo Fisher guy, right? I mean, this Bama team feels more 9-3 than it does 11-1. So I don't really know what to make of Georgia, Kentucky. I'll be honest, I haven't really watched Kentucky, but fuck, I mean, I watched a little bit of A&M, multiple games. And this was the thing last year when they went 5-7. The talent, no one argues the talent. I talked to a guy in the league that went through some of the SEC schools, and they say if they can just get the train on the tracks there, they can beat anyone on any given week, just because they have so many NFL level bodies from like junior down to freshman.
Yeah, A&M's the bet. I bet A&M there +3. It's come down. I still like it. I think they win that game. This Alabama team, it's just a mess right now. Their offensive line is a mess. They obviously can't really consistently throw. Milroe can hit a bomb, but he's not, he can't run this pro-style offense and throw the intermediary routes and really read a defense. And the Texas A&M, one of the most, you said it, they have 5-star talent all over, one of the most talented rosters in all college football, which makes what they did last year so shocking. So credit to Jimbo for at least going out, getting Bobby Petrino to run the offense. And
what a crew.
It's a motley crew, and he's given them full reign, and like they now have a more modern. It's not the Jimbo conservative, boring offense, and they have pros at receiver. Their starting quarterback got hurt, but there's not much of a drop off to Max Johnson. He was an LSU transfer.
Yeah,
he's played well, but the biggest thing is that their defense, they couldn't stop the run. They were one of the worst run defenses in the country last year, even though they have 5 stars all on the defensive line at linebacker. They fixed those issues, and that's the biggest thing against Alabama. I mean, Milroe, look at last week against Mississippi State. Mississippi State defense that is gutted, that is horrendous this year. He went 10 of 12 for 160 yards, and then Alabama runs it 45 times for 190 yards. Like, this is one of the worst rushing offenses too that Saban's ever had, and that's all they can do with Milroe. So I think the Texas A&M run defense is up for the task here, and as long as they don't give up too many bombs, because that's Milroe's specialty. You can throw a great deep ball. They should be fine here. They're the team. It's good. It's weird to say and see, but they're the team with the clearly way more talented receiving core. Alabama just doesn't have playmakers on the outside this year. You can remember the Alabama teams from 2-3 years ago, all those receivers that were going to be pros. Not really the case this year. No one's emerged on the outside. And Alabama and Texas A&M has a couple senior really good receivers, and then a couple freshmen that are going to play in the NFL. So I think that'll be the difference in front of a raucous home crowd. And then Kentucky, Georgia. Yeah, I get back.
Really quick, Stuckey. Don't you think if you look, I would imagine you can get them 10+1 to win the SEC. If they win this game, their road to the SEC championship game gets a lot easier. Obviously, they have one loss, but that was to Miami. All of a sudden, I mean, they're going to be favored against, several of the other teams. I think that A&M, if you like, that would be the bet, because if they do win this game, it opens up pretty easy. I don't want to say easy. The SEC West is always difficult, but they've already beat Auburn. They've already beat who they beat. Arkansas is not any good, but then you beat Alabama. I don't know, man. I mean, you look at Georgia too, even if their road is relatively easy to get the SEC championship game, A&M does have the talent to beat them. It's not that crazy, I don't think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is the bet. Unfortunately, I have an Ole Miss 25-1 to win the division ticket. The problem there is that they already lost to Bama. They do host Texas A&M, but they have to go to Georgia, and they already have a loss against Alabama. So yeah, and Texas A&M, it's like they go to Tennessee, but Tennessee's down this year. Then they host South Carolina. They have that game at Ole Miss, but they're Miss State, and then LSU can't stop a nosebleed. So yeah, I agree. I think that as of right now, that is the bet. And then Georgia, Kentucky. Look, Ray Davis was awesome. He ran for 1,000,000 yards against Florida last week. But the offense has still been so inconsistent. Like last week, they were just handing it to Ray Davis, and he was running through everybody. I think Leary is still hurt. He has like these, not hurt, he has this mechanical issue after his pec injury. So he's been so inconsistent and with his accuracy, especially early on in games, until he kind of gets his pec and shoulder warmed up. And then receivers have had a lot of drop issues. So the offense has been like very inconsistent because of this mechanical issue, because of the receiver drops. They've hit a ton of explosive plays, which is great, but you can't really do that against Georgia. And I'm not sure that they're going to be able to line up and just run Ray Davis, especially at their last week. It's not like they have a mobile quarterback. Georgia's got ran through by Auburn, who cannot complete a forward pass. I assume their defense is going to be on full alert here. But yeah, Georgia's a step down. Look, I mean, if I had to bet this game, I would bet Kentucky, but I'm getting bad vibes, just my gut and intuition, like it's a wake-up call game for Georgia. If they don't cover this game, or maybe even lose, I mean, if they only win by 7-10, then they're really off. But yeah, there's no emotional lead on the offense or defense. Clear step down at quarterback, clear step down at offensive coordinator. And I think that they're complacent, right? They won back-to-back national titles. The schedule stinks. So you're just like, all right, get me to the college football playoff. I mean, they're down 7-0 at the end of every first quarter, no matter who they play. That's eventually going to burn them. You would think that maybe they wake up here. I don't know. They didn't do it at home against South Carolina. They didn't do it at home. They didn't do it on the road against Auburn last week. I'm getting bad vibes from it, but I didn't bet it. No bet there. I'll be out and about in Lexington, watching and rooting so the town burns down.
It's pretty crazy how wide open of all the years, right? Georgia's clearly a couple years ago was the best. Them in Alabama last year, they were head and shoulders more talented than everyone else. It feels like Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and Washington. I think Florida State is just going to be there right now that they got through LSU and Clemson. It's pretty cool just because it's freaking Texas. Obviously, if they win this game, their path to the playoff. I mean, what do you think? 6-7 teams have a legitimate chance to win the national championship?
Yeah, you could say 8-10 maybe. I mean, like you have the Pac-12, and it's all over the country too, which I think is so fun. And I have this year, I have I think 10 to 12 teams that are within a touchdown of each other at the top. Usually within the last decade, there's 1 to 2 teams that are a touchdown above everybody else. Now everyone, there's 10 to 12 teams that are bunched up that closely. Look, you could even throw in Miami. I mean, how good is Miami? We don't really know yet because of the schedule, but they beat the shit out of Texas A&M. And this is a super talented team that the staff was way off last year. They hired new coordinators. Tyler Van Dyke has a lot of talent. He was hurt last year. Throw them in there. Throw the Pac-12 in there. You have your, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan from the Big Ten. And then obviously you have your SEC, which is down, but the teams at the top can still win it. So yeah, I think I love this year. I think it's great for the sport. And then you're getting every region involved. It's kind of ironic that the Pac-12 arguably is the best, most deepest conference in college football this year in its last season.
You might be a pro when it comes to what you do, but we can't all be pros at everything. Take home repairs, remodeling, and renovations. That's not something you want to trust to anyone but a skilled professional. Angie's List is now Angie. Connect with a local pro. Tackle jobs big and small, inside and out. Decks, leaky faucets, maybe redoing a kitchen. I know I can relate. It's not easy and you want people you can trust. The Angie app offers robust tools so you can research and connect with local pros who come highly rated and recommended by people right in your neighborhood, all with a few taps of a button. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. Okay, let's get to the NFL. I can't wait. Saturdays are fun right now. I'm going to stick with my philosophy. I've done it 2 weeks in a row. take a really good team against a shitty team with a big number. Did it with the Cowboys. I did it with Seattle. I'm going to do it again this week. Sounds crazy, but Detroit against the Panthers. Listen, they lost, their one game at home to Seattle, which, Jared Goff threw a bad pick six that, they ended up going to overtime. But this place now, you look at that schedule, I'm telling you, it's not inconceivable for them to win 12 plus games. I mean, they've won two of their harder games, obviously the Chiefs and at Lambeau. I think Detroit clearly is just pretty stacked with talent all over the place. Like no one could even debate that at this point. And rookie quarterback on the road, enormous number. I mean, 10 points is a lot. I'm not arguing that. But to me, this got like 30-10 if it goes the way I think it's going to go, written all over it. I think the Panthers fucking blow. We talk about how bad the Bears are. Well, at least at any moment, Justin Fields can run around and do some stuff. Denver's a good example. Like at any moment, Russell can make some plays if they just make a couple tackles. They got Sean Payton. I don't think Frank Reich's that good. Their talent's not that good. They don't have any weapons on offense. The offensive line's a problem. The quarterback's pretty tiny, and what Detroit have pretty good pass rush. And obviously, offensively, they're going to have no problem scoring. I wouldn't say no problem scoring because Carolina's got definitely solid personnel on defense. Their defensive coordinator's good, but 27-13 type number. That's kind of what I'm big number. But third week in a row, I'm going good versus shitty. I'm taking Detroit.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't have a bet on that game, but yeah, I mean, look, the Carolina defense could be decent, but they have a lot of injuries, including their top corner, one of the best in the league. He's out. One of their best linebackers is out. I think that their defense by the end of the year with a really good coordinator could be feisty, but right now, it's not going to be able to carry a team. And yeah, look in that division from what you've seen already. You could still win the division from 0-3. Like going into last week, I would have said, look, Young's not ready. Go. I'm rolling with Dalton. I think that's the best version of this team, but I agree on Reich. I agree on just how this offense is put together. I'm not a fan, but I would bet the Panthers here catching 10 if Dalton was starting. He actually gives the offense a chance. We saw that at Seattle. If they didn't have 9 false starts because of that crowd, they could have potentially won that game. And that was the only time their offense has had a pulse all year. Bryce Young, look. Usually you could tell
he looks tiny, bro.
Yeah,
and I liked him in college. God, he looks
same.
small.
Yeah, and he has no confidence right now. I haven't seen anything that would make me want to trust my money betting on him. So yeah, it's fade the Panthers or nothing. Even though this is a big number, I would 100% play the Panthers plus catching 10.5 with Andy Dalton. Want no part of them with Bryce Young.
I saw a good tweet. It was like the Panthers basically traded DJ Moore and Caleb Williams for Bryce Young. I think they like that one back. But that's just a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. I knew you'd take this, and if I wasn't just rolling with my philosophy, this has to be the bet you've taught me. Tomlin at home, dog. Just when everyone is just shitting on the franchise, saying fire everybody, quarterback's banged up, fold the franchise, fire the coaching staff. This is just classic him. Now, I don't know if they win the game, but it's from the wisdom of Stuckey, you got to hammer Steelers here, right? +4.
Yeah, this is the classic Tomlin spot. Last week was another classic Tomlin spot. They after a win, they go on the road. They play, a team that they, with a losing record team, and they just come out flat on the road. Now, like you said, this is Tomlin is the best in maybe the history of the NFL at rallying the troops with an us against the world mentality as an underdog. And the numbers speak for themselves. He's 53-28-3 against the spread as an underdog. Most profitable coach in NFL history. That's over 65%. As an underdog against an opponent with a winning record, he's 33-15-1 against the spread. That's 68.8%. He just consistently will get the best out of his team in this spot, especially after a loss. I also think the Ravens are a bit overvalued right now. They are my team, but they played C.J. Stroud in his first ever start on the road in a brand new offensive scheme with an offensive line that was put together the day before. Then they played a one-legged Joe Burrow that grades out as the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. Then they play a backup with the Colts. They play a backup who was told he was going to start a day before the game and make his first career start last week in DTR, and the Browns never had a shot. So they basically had one of the most beneficial opposing quarterback situations that I've seen. They might face another backup here in Mitch Trubisky, but just like how they lost to Gardner Minshew, I don't think that's a downgrade. I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. He's bailing. He doesn't look great. I'm not saying Mitch Trubisky's any good, but it's not some big upgrade. It's probably dead even. So it doesn't really matter here that if they face a backup quarterback. But I do think they might be a bit overvalued. This is also, you're going to have some wind here. The total's 38, and this is a classic AFC North rivalry where these teams and coaches are so familiar with each other. And, you'll get the Steelers' best effort. Lamar Jackson, for what it's worth, he really struggled against the Steelers in his career. He has only team he has more interceptions and touchdowns against. He has his lowest passer rating against Pittsburgh. And when these teams meet, I mean, this is pretty crazy. Since 2008, when Harbaugh got to Baltimore, when the spread is 3 or more, because Ravens fans or Steelers fans that are bettors, we have like this rule: if the spread's over 3, you just take the dog. Since 2008, when Harbaugh got there, when the Steelers and Ravens they've played 30 times. For what it's worth, 17 of the 30 have been decided by 3 or less. If you go back and look at the scores, they're all 16-14, 16-13, 16-14.
Yeah.
But if you took the dog when the spread is 3 or more, whenever the spread was 3 or more, the underdog is 17-1-3 against the spread. 17-1-3 against the spread if you just take the underdog in this matchup when they're catching 3 or more, which you are here. So, yeah, I'll take over a field goal in what should be a low-scoring game in a classic Tomlin spot.
I think one thing you notice when people forget, because you think of teams bad or you think of teams good, divisional opponents. I mean, there is a lot of, even though the NFL has more turnover than any other sport, there's still a lot of carryover with players like the Commanders. They got a lot of players who aren't like intimidated by Fletcher Cox and Jason. You saw it with the Cardinals last week, like James Conner and some of those guys, like they're fucking the 49ers. We played you every year for a while. Some of these games, unless you're the Giants, just are much closer than you imagine. And like you said, this is, the closest thing we have to an Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, because the two coaches have been there so long. The rivalry is such a physical game. And a lot of obviously the defenders now for the Steelers have been there for a while. So I'm with you. Steelers might stink, but if you could tell me they win 6 games, they might win this thing. I do think, and it's cool to see, and I mean, this, that Lamar's just, the contract thing's well behind, and he's just playing at a really high level. He's just a fun, he's just a very, very, like, in the history of my life watching football, just one of the more enjoyable players. The Barry Sanders, the Michael Vicks, just you don't see very often. He is a fucking badass to watch run around and make plays.
Yeah, I love watching him. I think by the end of the year he's going to be in the MVP discussion. Yeah, and he reminds me of that saying, like that Barry Sanders when like the pockets collapse, or in Barry Sanders' case, like he had nowhere to run, nothing's doing, bounce it out, running all the way around, and then he's gone 80 yards for a touchdown after a spin. Those are some of the plays that Lamar Jackson's making in the pocket. And it's only going to get better, I think, this year under a new offense as he adjusts. So, yeah, he's a joy to watch for sure.
If they could ever stay healthy and load up the offense around him, he'd be. Do you think McCaffrey's got a chance to win the MVP?
Yeah, I think he has. I mean, it's just so hard for a quarterback to not win it. Yeah, I mean, I guess he would have he has a chance. He's in the discussion as one of the only non-quarterbacks, but there's so many elite quarterbacks that are going to put up stupid numbers this year. But as of right now, like if you look around, it's like, all right, well, Burrow is kind of out of the discussion. Lamar, he's not putting up the passing touchdown numbers yet in a new offense. There's like Mahomes. The Mahomes doesn't have the same weapons. No. There's like some fatigue there. So compared to
Josh Allen feels like a
Allen's
guy
the favorite.
Yeah, I mean he feels like a guy that
right now.
Yeah, people have been kind of waiting to vote on. Hasn't quite had the year. Now they go 14-3. They're the 1 seed. McCaffrey could have a Marshall Faulk LT type year and still not get it right.
Yeah, so those are the two. The reason I would say no is like even though like Lamar could come back into the mix, Mahomes he's always going to be there. But you have Josh Allen. Now the Bills lost their star corner, their number one lockdown corner for the season. Their defense isn't going to be as good. What does that mean? You put up even bigger numbers, and then there's also Tua. I mean, and their defense is horrendous. So like Tua's going to put up ridiculous numbers in Miami this season. So. It's just going to be too hard to overcome some of the quarterback numbers that'll eventually be there.
Something magical happens when the third quarter ends and the fourth quarter begins. The energy changes. The fourth quarter is where games are won, where champions are made. And in business, it's where sales teams become legends. That's why HubSpot built Sales Hub to give sales reps the deal-making tools they need to win in Q4 and close the year strong. Sales Hub, prospecting workplaces, organizes your schedule, goals, and to-do lists in one place to save your team precious fourth quarter time. Smart sequences help sales reps close deals faster than ever. And with an easy-to-use deal management tool, reps can find, track, and close deals all in one place. Plus, AI forecasting helps you accurately predict future success, which means less hoping for deals and more crushing targets. Put your sales team on the fast track to winning Q4 with Sales Hub. Learn more at HubSpot.com/sales. Let's dive into a quarterback, actually two quarterbacks who are not putting great numbers, McCorkle Jones and Derek Carr. I'll give Derek a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Last week his shoulder was messed up, but still that game is somewhat parallels some of his performances in the past. So, it's easy to kind of dump on him. I don't know. I mean, I personally couldn't bet on this game. The Saints, I can't believe I liked them as much as I did. And then you watch them and clearly, Derek just might be an average, the lowest level of average quarterback. The Patriots are in shambles. I mean, they lost two great defensive players for them. And obviously this is a must win for the Pats. And the Saints, all of a sudden you lose at home to Tampa. They're on a bye. You're kind of, God, are you more likely to go 7-10 than be a 10-7 team? Because that's kind of what I'm looking at, especially if Derek's going to be messed up with his shoulder.
Yeah, I took the Patriots here. I have to fade the Saints with this version of Carr until that I see he's healthy. So like,
why would you play him?
I don't understand. They have a capable backup. Last year, he went 23 of 37 for 127 yards, 3.4 yards per attempt on over 40 dropbacks. I mean, that is horrendous. And I think Kamara had 13 catches for 31 yards. I don't know how that's even possible mathematically. So yeah, he's just not healthy right now. So like yes, the Patriots have injuries. Judon hurts. They have a lot of corner injuries, but there's number one, if you can't throw downfield, who cares if you don't have corners? But any corner you plug into this Belichick defense, they just grade out elite. I mean, you saw J.C. Jackson was like, he's the best corner in the league if you go by the grading. And then he goes to the Chargers and he's a healthy scratch every week. And then the Patriots, no matter what rookie they draft, they have like 10 guys named Jones that they drafted. You just plug them in and then they play well. Well, maybe it's not the guys and maybe a lot of it's just the scheme. So I don't think that those losses against an offense like this with a limited quarterback are as big as they will be as if, they were playing the Bills or the Dolphins, say, in a division game. So this is a fade of Carr. I'm not a Mac Jones guy, never have been. Funny story, and it's not personal because funny story, when he was in college, he did like a visit to Kentucky and he slid into my now wife's DMs. We weren't married at the time, but so I've always how
old's your wife?
Chuckle. She's 6 years younger than me. She's 32.
But she's way older than Mac, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he found her on Instagram. And
he get a response?
No. She was like, dude, you're a kid. You're like 17.
Bro, you're a 3-star.
Yeah. So anyway, but look, the Patriots, I think this is the bottom of the market on them. Their losses, if you look, they lost to the Cowboys in a smash Cowboy spot, right? Like as you know, they were coming off an embarrassing loss at home, but their losses are the Cowboys, the Eagles, and again, they could have won at home, and the Dolphins in a game they could have won at home. So, they lost to 3 of the better teams in the NFL. I think this is probably the low point on the market on them. And it's just a huge coaching mismatch with a hurt quarterback. Like Belichick this is just like a Tomlin spot. Belichick, after a loss over the past 20 seasons, 53, 26, and 1 against the spread, 67%. By far the most profitable coach in NFL history in that scenario. As an underdog or favorite of less than 7 points after loss, 42 and 11 against the spread, 80%. Now you might say, yeah, Tom Brady. Okay, without Tom Brady, 60% against the spread. With any other quarterback, Cam Newton, Castle, Zappe, and Mac Jones. So I expect the Patriots to be fully focused here. And this is their season. Like you go to 1-4 in the AFC with that schedule, you're done. And I just have to fade Carr. He's not healthy right now, and can't just check it down to death in Foxborough and win this game.
To me, if Derek Carr, bad shoulder, Dennis Allen, the Saints come in and beat the Patriots, I'm sorry, it's over. And listen, I'm not one that hates on Belichick, that thinks it was 90-10 Brady Belichick. Anyone that watched that dynasty, Belichick was fucking dominating schematically. Defensively, they were doing, he was elite. He's one of the all-time greats, any sport. You could argue he's the greatest coach of all time. They lose this game. I'm sorry. It's probably just time at the end of the season to just go your separate way. It's over in New England. Welcome to sports. I think if they lose,
nothing lasts forever. And if Mac Jones looks awful, you got to ask serious questions.
They could lose to anybody. Yeah. So, and the Saints, the one thing with the Saints, right, their defense can play well. So, I hear you. It would make me nervous because I think there is probably a 50-50 shot that the pixie dust on everything is just done with Bill, and it's just kind of run its course.
It's definitely a concern of mine. I don't have my trust level bar is at the low end, but it's not out yet. But if a bad performance here, it could be drained.
Okay, game of the day. One of the games easily of the year. I mean, you could argue it's this in Buffalo, Miami, at least going into the game of the year through early October. Cowboys-Niners. Who you like? Why?
I don't have a strong opinion on who's going to win the game. But I'm taking the Cowboys. In this matchup, these are 2 of the best teams in the NFC. No matter where these, if you even throw the Eagles in there, Eagles, Cowboys, 49ers, no matter where they play, and no matter what combination, 49ers versus Eagles, and you give me over a field goal, I'm taking it. And look, the Cowboys can get pressure, which you need to do against Purdy. Now, Purdy can handle it. Purdy's not a Jimmy G. He can handle the pressure, but you cannot let him sit back there. You have to blitz him, you have to get pressure, and you have to get home. Because his numbers when he's not blitzed and his numbers in a clean pocket, because how well schemed that offense is, are insane. Cowboys, one of the few teams that can do that. They did that last year. Purdy, performed pretty admirably, but had his worst game as a pro, and that just speaks to the Dallas defense. They've really abused that right side of the 49ers offensive line. We're going to learn a lot about the 49ers offensive line here. I mean, look, they've looked great. They're in the Super Bowl discussion. They're one of the best teams in the league, but they haven't really been tested yet by a defense. I mean, they played the Cardinals and the Rams and the Giants. So we're going to learn a lot about that offensive line. But I think the one question that I have with this 49ers team is their defense doesn't look as sharp. Now, maybe it's just, hey, we're not playing anybody. But the run defense grades out bottom 5 in success rate, EPA per run allowed. Pollard, I think, can have a big day here. And when he gets going, that opens up the play action. You can take some shots, which you need to do against this 49ers defense. And remember, last year, look, and the Cowboys should come out with their hair on fire here. They're playing against a team that's eliminated from the postseason in each of the past 2 years. And both games are close, right? Like Dak they can't snap it one year. Last year they lose by 7, but that game was 9-9 going into the fourth quarter. And the Cowboys lost Pollard and are handing it to, the corpse of Zeke, who had
that was a legit close playoff game. I mean, that could have gone either way. The Cowboys showed up, the defense ready to win.
Yep. Yeah. And I took them last year. I lost that bet, but it was 3.5. So I'm happy to do that again here. My prediction on this game is this is going to be close, and I can't wait for it. And if you're giving me over a field goal, which you are now, I'm taking it. So yeah, I'm going to take the Cowboys plus 3.5. think maybe shop around, maybe you can get a 4, but anything over a field goal is fine here. I think this is close and great throughout. And I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, Charvarius Ward, obviously the 49ers' best corner, one of the better corners, definitely in the NFC, banged up, healed. Now, he misses some practice and usually plays, but that's something to keep an eye on because they need him, against CeeDee Lamb. And you're right. I mean, I would say Nick Bosa has not exactly looked like Micah Parsons or TJ Watt through the beginning portion of the season, which makes sense. I mean, he showed up September 1st or whatever. Now, the guy that has is Hargrave. So and Kinlaw's been better. Their defense, to me, the Cowboys, when you really look at their 4 games, when they've got to front run, like when they're like Tiger Woods winning by 10, they're going to blow away the field. And it just snowballs. And you watch it, you're like, fuck, they're going to win this game by 40. And their point differential is outrageous because defense is scoring. They're doing 2-point plays. I mean, they're clowning Belichick. They got into one dogfight.
Once they know you're going to throw, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing with Kyle. The score could be 14-0. He'll still hammer he's one of the rare coaches that's much more of a throwback like his dad in that era that will just stick to a game plan that won't freak out, especially now that he trusts the quarterback. But to me, it'll be interesting because more than likely it's just going to be a close game. Like you said, let's just say it's 12-12 or something at halftime. Like the Cowboys have it figured out how to. That's the difference between them and the Eagles and the Niners. Like the Eagles and the Niners can fucking meet you in the mud and play an ugly ass game and figure out a way to win. Like both those two teams, they could easily beat anyone on the road. Sometimes with Dallas, you go, God, do you have the grittiness? And that's always kind of been a McCarthy knock, right? Some of those Rodgers teams, obviously Rodgers was much better than Dak. And this defense is better than the overwhelming majority of any of those Packers defenses, but it's like a mindset from the coach. Like one thing with Kyle Shanahan and all the guys that they've accumulated, they're just kind of like war daddies, Debo play in the parking lot. And the Eagles, they have a lot of guys like that. Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox. The Cowboys, in theory, you think would, but sometimes for whatever reason, and this is a huge game for them. Right? Like you said, the Niners have beat them twice in a row in the playoffs. Everyone views the Niners. They're admitting it. Jerry's like, this is a Super Bowl team. They win this game. I think it would be like their biggest win the last couple years since they've been good, right? Be McCarthy's biggest win as a Cowboy head coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And the 49ers, if they lose this game, you just say, okay,
whatever.
They'll be fine. And we'll beat you in the playoffs. So yeah, I think that you're going to get early on you're going to get the Cowboys' best effort here. So
I think you got to have some trick plays. You got to, go for it on some special team stuff.
You got to bring the kitchen sink out here.
If I'm the Cowboys, I treat this like it was the NFC Championship or whatever, and hopefully,
because you need it mentally, right? You need this game. They need this game for their psyche. If they face the 49ers, can they beat the 49ers in the playoffs? You lose again here. I agree. I would throw everything out here to win this game. And then also could mean you get it. I don't think the 49ers would care if they have to go on the road. But this game could also decide home field.
That's why losing that Arizona game kind of fucks Dallas. It puts more pressure on this because all of a sudden you lose this game. You feel like you're a lock to be the 5 seed, which in theory, there are some years where it shouldn't be the end of the world, but when you have to go to Philly and go to San Francisco more than likely, that's a problem. So this is, I don't want to say must win. It's early October, but because they lost to Arizona, I think this game is dramatically bigger. I mean, that game looms large for them to me as the season goes on, assuming, the Eagles and Niners don't do something similar. Well, I mean, look at the Niners. They just play Arizona and they beat them by, they actually shouldn't have covered the spread. Were you watching that game? They dropped 2 touchdowns under 12 seconds
at the end. Yeah, that was crazy.
Okay, Stuckey.
Yeah, I agree. Much more important for Dallas. But I'll say, I just think my prediction is it's decided by a field goal.
Yeah, and if it's a 49ers field goal kicker, he's a rookie. You never know. So missed a couple in the preseason, but been pretty nails. So you're going Pat's money line, Steelers, and hammering the Cowboys.
You got it.
And I'm hammering Lions -10. Go Detroit. Motor City Kitties, baby. Okay, Stuckey. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. I'll root your Lions in. Good luck.